What's up, y'all? Welcome back. We are back in the Beatitudes, so break open your Bibles. I know they already got a little bit of a crease to Matthew 5 because you guys have been sticking with us for this long, and I know you've all been doing very diligently at breaking out the physical Bible and reading with us. So we are going to be in verse 9, which is, Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. So I know we were talking about this in the car a little bit. And I mean, as we were kind of diving into it, I think it's funny because you're a peacemaker to me, and so instantly I do think of you when I think of this verse, just because you are really, I think, the perfect image of a peacemaker in a lot of ways, and obviously that can turn into a people pleaser at times. But I do think as you've grown and as we've been together, I've seen you turn into a true peacemaker, which has been really cool for me to get to watch that. But it's also very challenging for me because I do believe peace in general. Like, I think I'm a person who struggles to be peaceful and also struggles to make peace. Is funny. I was doing something the other day, and I just somebody said one thing, and it wasn't the nicest thing ever, but it wasn't like something outrageously horrible, and I just felt I'm so needing to defend myself at all times. And as I was thinking about this verse, I think a few passages popped into my head, which is the one where Paul says, "I have become all things for all people, so that I might save one." Because I do think a part of peacemaking is doing that. It's being against your personality for some people. And also another one that came to my mind was as far as it lies on you, be at peace with everybody. So be at peace with everybody as far as it lies on you, and which is difficult because I think for me, when I'm trying to seek peace and I'm trying to be a peacemaker, if I can't find that resolution, that's a hard place for me. And so I found myself in times where I wanted the resolution, but that other person didn't. And that's extra hard because I'm not initially a peacemaker. And then I feel like sometimes when I try to be a peacemaker, it's denied. And I'm like, well, now I'm back to square one because I tried. Like, I did everything I could. And that was a big encouragement for me when I read that verse, realizing that it's not all my job. There are levels to where I can't change people's hearts, and that it is up to me to a certain point. And I felt very, very vindicated by God, I think, in that moment, to just hear that was something he spoke to Paul, was that, because I mean, I imagine Paul. Imagine some of the things that Paul probably tried to smooth over with people, and the battles and arguments that would have come from a murderer of Christians to becoming a Christian would have been very hard for people. And I just think it's very cool that he's the one who brought that message that God used, because as like it's just such a testament to the radical change. And then another really big area I got led to, and then I'll let you touch on this, was just the idea of, like, Jesus said, like, he's not here to bring peace but a sword. And like, to me, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, so is this contradicting what I'm reading here? Because if I'm supposed to be a peacemaker, but Jesus' call wasn't to bring peace and that we were going to be hated by the world, how do those two correlate? And as we were kind of talking about it earlier, one of the things we talked about was the idea of his division looked very different. So when he was talking about bringing a sword and bringing division, it wasn't like, I'm going to attack everybody, because that's actually what they wanted. Like, they wanted a conquering Messiah to destroy the Roman government and to free them in their minds, but that wasn't what he was bringing. And so there was going to be division because we were called to live a radically not normal life instead of following what people in the world thought it was going to look like. It was just so 180 that was that division he was bringing. It wasn't this evil, like, attack division, but it was more of a peaceful division in a weird way. And I'll let you go ahead and expand a little bit more on that. But those were kind of where I was initially drawn.
I thought of that verse too, where it says, as far as it depends on you, be peaceful with everybody. And I think to be a peacemaker, you have to have an understanding heart. You have to have grace for that person, otherwise you won't feel the need to bring peace into the situation. For someone that's not naturally stand back and just watch everybody like you are, I think that's something to remember, is that, like, when you go into a circumstance or you have a conflict arise, that you should start with an understanding part, because then you'll want to give peace. Because, I mean, even in circumstances where I haven't, it's a lot easier to give peace when you know the person and you love the person. It's a lot harder to give peace and to be a peaceful presence in a conflict or a circumstance when you have been hurt and you don't care about the other person's feelings. Now, it's a fine line, because like you said, sometimes peacemakers can be people pleasers. So it's a fine line, but I do think, I mean, Jesus came, he was peaceful. I believe he was peaceful. I mean, in his own way, because he was going against what the law said that he was supposed to be. But I think he was very understanding, and he was very peaceful when he approached people. And I think that I like this verse a lot, because I was telling Josh, like, at the end it says that you will be sons of God. And when he read it, I was going to make a joke that, like, I was going to be a son and he's, like, the bride and I'm a son, and so it's kind of backwards. But anyways, I was going to make a joke out of it, but it wasn't actually funny. Anyways, but I love that, because it's talking about the peacemakers are citizens of heaven. You're adopted into this sonship, and you are a citizen of heaven, and your home is not here. And that should give you encouragement to bring peace and share the peace you have with other people. And then another thing I was thinking about, like, for me, I think that sometimes, and this is something that you said that I was like, oh, that's really good, I just didn't know how to say it, was, I think, as a peaceful person that also leans on people pleasing, it's really easy to have that as your identity and avoid all conflict. It's really easy to be like, okay, well, I'm the peaceful person, so, like, I'm just not going to have any conflict, and if you're upset with me or I'm upset with you, we're just not going to talk about it, because I'm a peaceful person. And I think whether you're doing that subconsciously or consciously, whatever, that's kind of the road you go down.
Right.
Is you take that on as your identity and as an excuse to not do that. But I think as Christians, we should, one, all be able to handle conflict in a healthy way. Two, even though it's really scary for some of us, two, you need to do it in a peaceful way. You have to know how to handle conflict peaceably and with an understanding, patient heart. And I think that is what God's people should look like, and those are the citizens of heaven. Those are the sons of God. Those are the daughters of God. And so you as a peacemaker are not avoiding conflict at all costs. You
Right.
are knowing how to handle it in the right way, and you're not, I can't remember the words you said.
Yeah, well, and to double it, you're also not seeking conflict. It's like there's it's funny, because I feel like a lot of Christianity is living in the middle of this, like, outright good, outright bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, outright one way or another, because it's not good either way.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's where we struggle, is we will fall on one half and we'll struggle to realize that we can have a middle. Like, and that's something that's been really big for me, because I feel like we convince ourselves that we either have to avoid conflict or we have to seek conflict. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's the idea of it's neither. Yeah. You can take in the conflict that you need to. You can approach conflict that you need to, but you also can keep your mouth shut when you need to. Yeah. And I think that's a huge key to handling a lot of the problems. And I think it's something we're scared to do sometimes, is take on the conflicts that are good. Mm-hmm. And some of us are just really bad at not engaging in everything as a conflict, because that can be just as detrimental to somebody, is to do that, to be everything you say is, well, hold on, no, like that's not the point. And I like it because we talked about how everything, as you're going through the Beatitudes, there's this blessed are these because, and the because is this promise that you'll be part of the kingdom of heaven. You will see God. You will, so on and so forth. And I like them because they're all eternal, but they're also a promise that I feel like we get to experience now. And it's kind of what you hit on, like being the sons of God, like being adopted into citizenship in heaven is a great eternal promise, but it's also a call to live like that here. And I think when we start seeing sons and daughters acting like sons and daughters, that's where we see a church change. And especially from our experiences of being in church, you can tell which churches are living in that. And it's not that we're perfect, but it's that conscious desire to be doing that. Because to me, when I think of a peacemaker, it's not somebody who can always keep the peace, but it's somebody who they themselves are always looking to make peace in whatever way that needs to be. If that's going to a brother and saying, hey, you are sinning and we need to, this needs to be addressed, that's a way to make peace. Some of the ways to make peace is flipping the tables and whipping out the money changers, because what it's bringing is there is no peace where evil is. So if where evil is, there is no peace. And that's a really big thing to me. And it's not our job to eradicate evil, but it's our job to bring the good and bring the light into the darkness. Yeah. And I think it's half not overstepping our ability to think that we're going to make the peace, like we're going to create all the peace, but at the same time, it's realizing that through Christ, we have the ability to be instruments that can, through God, bring about peace. And I think that's just a really big mindset change for me, is that difference between having to do it all and being an instrument that can do great things. There's a reason the apostles' shadows were huge, that people would get healed by their shadow. It wasn't their shadow itself that was this amazing power, but the power of the Holy Spirit through them. And I just think that's something we need to walk in. And I want to do better than that. I want to see all of us do better than that. And I just think it's really cool. I love the Beatitudes, and I feel like every new one we break open is just this huge promise to just be a good person, because I know we're not good, but it's like this continual call to live a good life. And I don't understand how we can believe that this is bad. I don't understand why people don't want this. And it's a huge call for me, and it just ignites my fire, because I'm like, why would you not want to be a peacemaker? Why is the world so avidly against our God who proclaims such good, just because it's difficult to live out? And I think that's a big thing for me. And that's all I have. I don't know if you have anything you want to add at all. Okay. So hope y'all got something out of this. I know I did. Just the call to be a peacemaker is huge, and I hope we all accept it. I hope we're all walking in that and not just letting it die. These are promises. These are calls. This is a calling we all have. This isn't a Bible verse for me or a Bible verse for Lenan or XYZ. This is a call to Christians. So if we're professing believers, these Beatitudes are for you, and it's really for everybody. But I mean, we as Christians are saying that we're going to accept what God's telling us to do, and we're going to follow His commands. So huge encouragement is that we just go out and live this, and we start looking different. We look like citizens of heaven, because I just think that would be a huge shift for our world if there were a lot more people that you couldn't deny, the royalty that they had, because that's what we live like. You can't deny the royals when you see them on TV and all this garbage. Why are we not living like we're part of a royal family?
Well, sorry, I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
You saying that, why are we not living? So tonight at group, the question was asked, what is the evidence that you have that proves that you know Jesus personally? Look at these Beatitudes. Are any of these evident in your life? Can someone look at you or know you and be like, yes, I can pick one of these, a couple of these, whatever it is? Is there proof in your life that these Beatitudes, these fruits of the Spirit, are evident in your life? Or is it proof that the Holy Spirit is working in you, and you are a follower of Christ. Because we were talking about tonight, like, are you a fan of God, or are you just like a friend of God? Like, are you just a fan, or are you a friend of God? Are you a fan, or are you a follower? Because there's a huge difference. And so,
I love that. It's a good 2 cents.
Sorry. Just had to
Hey,
think of that.
when the Spirit moves, you gotta let it out. Okay, so that's all we got for you guys. Our for this week is actually "Give Me Your Eyes" by Brandon Heath, which is one of Dad's favorites.
It's an OG song.
It is a very old song. And I think it actually goes perfectly with not only the Beatitudes, but obviously this verse in general. Just asking God to give you the eyes to be a peacemaker, because you can't be a peacemaker if you don't see the people as, God's creation. If you see people as problems, you'll never want to make peace with them. But when you see every single person, every single situation as a child of God that needs love, that needs Jesus, I'm telling you, situations change. So that's all we got for you guys. We love y'all and look forward to seeing you next week. Deuces.